Hola, yo soy Axel Bautista.
Hi, I'm Alex Garner.
And this is MPact's American Beauty Podcast.
This is the third episode. Category is body. We are going to talk about the experience of crossing borders of gender expression, embracing our bodies, exploring our sensuality, and feeling fully empowered to bring out the sexiest part of ourselves. To start with this conversation, let's begin with Jason Rodríguez and Diego Medina, two Vogue dancers from different parts of the US, who will tell us more about their experience in the ballroom scene and how it has impacted their queer lives.
Me llamo Jason Rodríguez, soy hombre queer, gay, latinx, dominicano, nacido en Washington Heights, en Manhattan, pero cada verano me mandaban a Moca, el campo de República Dominicana, yo soy dominicano, no me gusta decir que soy americano. Y después, primer persona que yo creo que vi poder de ser queer, de ser latinx, y era el mejor de Vogue en el momento fue Benny Ninja, que lo vi en el show America's Next Top Model. Y yo dije, ¿y quién es este latino calvo enseñando a estas mujeres cómo mover su cuerpo y dar poses? Y se veía que él estaba cómodo en su piel y tenía energía femenino y masculino. Y no sabía qué poder que yo estaba viendo entre la televisión, pero la quería ese poder que él tenía. Y fue el poder como él se sentía cómodo en saber que él tenía la forma y el poder. Comencé a tomar clase de él en la ciudad. Él daba clase en Broadway Dance Center y Perry Dance. Me enfoqué a tomar clase de él después que salí de la universidad. Después me encontré en la casa de House of Ninja y ellos me armaron con mucha información, mucho entrenamiento, bailando en toda la discoteca en Nueva York. Y creo que el tiempo con ellos me prepararon después para hacer el trabajo que hice en Pose. El arte que me encanta voguing y conocer el poder de tener este poder y también darlo además. Entre los videos que pongo en social media, en la clase que doy, siempre estoy pensando este poder y esta fuerza y esta confianza que tengo, cómo se lo puedo pasar a los demás. Por eso me encanta dar clases, me encanta hablar con gentes, como sea, en cualquier forma, siempre pienso cómo puedo pasar este poder de más. Y eso es una forma de nuestra cultura. Como soy dominicano, nosotros tenemos bachata y merengue y esas son nuestra forma de hablar y estar en familia y sentir música para nuestra comunidad LGBT y más. Tenemos voguing para sentirse cómodo, para sentir un poder que sabemos cómo movernos, sabemos cómo hablar, expresar. Los movimientos que yo hago, gente sienten algo. Pueden ser queer o no, pero cuando yo me muevo el cuerpo, cuando me siento la confianza de mover, la gente lo ven. No se puede negar el movimiento que hago cuando Vogue, entre un cuerpo masculino, entre una forma femenino, no se puede negar esa fuerza. Se puede tener preguntas, se puede tener mala intención, pero no se puede negar el poder. ¿Qué ropa me pongo? ¿Cómo me quiero ver caminando afuera? ¿Cómo hablo con mis gentes, con los demás? Me siento cómodo en moverme en el mundo. Yo antes de voguing estaba siempre en los juegos de video, jugando PlayStation, Xbox. Tenía bullies en la escuela yo vivía en Washington Heights caminando en mi casa y tener 3 atrás de mí jodiéndome. Y uno después quería ser novio mío de noche. Hello. Pero todo eso es tanta energía negativa. Y no fue hasta encontrar arte, danza, voguing, comencé a sentirme cómodo en mi cuerpo y en mi voz. Antes de voguing no sentía que no tenía nada que decir. ¿Qué tengo yo que decir? Y después encontrar esta forma y esta cultura me dio poder. y el poder ahora se sale entre mi voz, entre mi movimiento, entre todo, entre cómo me veo.
My name is Diego Medina. I am currently living in LA. I've been here for just about a year. 35 years old. And I identify as poly, pan, and pos. So polyamorous, pansexual, and sex positive, seropositive. And my pronouns are he. I'm comfortable with they as well. I'm Chicano Boricua. So my mother's side is Chicano, or Chicana, and then my dad's side is Boricua. He grew up in Puerto Rico and moved here when he was in his 20s. Yeah, and I spend a lot of time with both sides of my family. So I very much identify with both of them. Attended my first ball probably at the end of 2016, and then I started my own house. Co-founder of House of Luna, Jade Dynasty, she threw a kiki ball where my future house father, Stefan, was judging, and I was mesmerized. I was so in love with it. It was in South Seattle, a place I love to go to, and just seeing people really experimenting with themselves, their gender expression, not just their gender identity, but their expression and in their movements, whether it's through Vogue or Old Way. And yeah, it captured my attention. After meeting Stefan many times, I decided I really believed in the platform of ballroom, which is, it's a platform for liberation.
Pues tú entiendes, ¿no? Porque ¿cómo te sientes cuando estás caminando?
Primero que nada, el escenario como que ya representa un espacio bastante interesante, ¿no? Porque es estar frente a un montón de personas que podrían estarte juzgando o no. Pero el hecho de también estar como dentro de la comunidad, si sientes un tema de, sí, como de empoderamiento. O sea, tú eliges la categoría o caminas lo que quieres porque quieres empoderarte con ciertas cosas en tu cuerpo, ya sea tu sensualidad en sex siren o tu expresión de género también sex siren, pero también otras, ¿sabes? Como hay un tema de llevar al máximo la expresión de lo que quizás normalmente no haces.
Pero en el momento, ¿cómo te sientes tú cuando estás caminando?
Como poderoso y como con nervios también, pero poderoso. Principalmente es como poderoso y como bello también. Según la categoría, te puedes sentir también como guapo, bello, como like, you know, like a god or like a goddess, like, depende de la categoría definitivamente, ¿no? Pero sí siento que hay mucho poder.
Eso es el punto, ¿no?
Uh-huh. Claro. Digo, el episodio pasado, el de hace 8 días, hablábamos precisamente del lenguaje y el orgullo, pero aquí creo que algo como mucho más interesante, no más interesante, pero que muy pocas veces se habla de cuando el cuerpo también te permite tener un poder sin tener que hablar.
Y necesitamos luchar para sentir cómodo en tu cuerpo. Y es difícil, siempre. We live in a culture, in a world that expects your body to look and move a certain way. Machismo reinforces that.
Bueno, ahora me gustaría mucho que escucháramos a Mizzaddy. Mizzaddy es una performer en Nueva York de burlesque. Es la primera persona de burlesque que yo conozco y la verdad me emocionó muchísimo conocerle, me inspiró muchísimo y quiero que escuchemos un poco cómo ha sido su experiencia a través del burlesque, sobre todo en temas de cómo ha abrazado su expresión de género, ¿no? Cómo ha abrazado todo su cuerpo, pero también cómo ha abrazado lo sexy que es él, ¿no? Lo sexy que hay dentro de él y cómo lo amplifica, sobre todo cuando está en el escenario.
My pronouns are, I go by in burlesque, they, them. Out of burlesque, like me, just on my daily day, I don't mind he, him. But
Okay.
like they, he, anything respectful. I'm gay. I was born in Jersey City, actually, so right over. And I moved to Pennsylvania too for a little bit, and then I moved to New York after college. I always grew up performing in theater, dancing, stuff like that. And then I went to school for theater. I graduated from musical theater in Pennsylvania. And then while I was in college, I saw a burlesque performer like in a nightclub, but I've only ever seen them as like women. I've never seen like a male burlesque performer. And also my only real experience with burlesque was the burlesque movie. Have you ever seen it? Yeah, which is not really burlesque, I found out later on. It's very a PG version of what burlesque is. But I was always enthralled with like that kind of cabaret style performance. But I've only ever seen like women do it in that way. Until like I was in college and I saw my friend, his name is Bear, or their name is Bear Chat Burlesque. They're from Philly. I saw them perform and I was like, oh, that's like what everything I like to do. They had like makeup, they were dancing in heels, they had like this elaborate costume. So I already learned how to do a lot of that in college for theater. So it was just translating all my skills in theater and just doing it as my own persona. Burlesque is just, to me, the art of the striptease. So you don't necessarily have to be like trained in anything to do burlesque. But I do think having a performance background. For me, my burlesque is really just like, I know sometimes people think it's corny to say this, but more like a love letter to like younger me in a sense. So I'm not really trying to say anything to anyone else. It's more of just more about like me and how I've always wanted to express myself as a kid. Because I feel like even as a kid, I was always like masculine, but also very feminine at the same time. And a lot of that femininity was seen as like a bad thing. So I wasn't always able to express that. And even when I came out, you know, in the gay community, there's still those like no femmes, no none of that. And it's not until recently that we're starting to celebrate like more feminine gay men, and not seeing it as like a bad thing to be feminine. So for me, my burlesque is more of like, I'm finally gonna not care what people think, and I'm just gonna showcase my masculine and femininity equally through art.
If you're doing a love letter to your younger self, what are you saying? What's the one thing you want to say to your younger self?
I would say that it really doesn't matter. Like, it just really doesn't matter what people think, you know? I cared, and I mean, as we all do sometimes to some degree, but as a kid, I really, really cared about, like, what people thought about me, and it affected me up until growing up. So I would just say, like, let it go. It's not that deep, and when you grow up, you'll be able to do what you want to do. I used to be a lot overweight when I was younger, so I never like celebrated my body. So part of my burlesque, and even in college I didn't. And then I lost a lot of weight and I was like so like skinny, and I thought that was the answer, and I wasn't happy then either. So it's also like a love letter about like loving my body too. So I think people definitely take that away from my performances, because I feel like I've grown to love my body through burlesque. Because you kind of can't hide. Like, you're literally, like, stripping clothes off. So, like, if you don't love it, you can tell by the performance. So you have to be comfortable to that degree. For sure, I would say even in burlesque, it took me a little bit to get used to that. Because I'm such, like, a covered-up person. And, like, Mizzaddy is such, like, a performer. And so, like, powerhouse kind of performer. High energy and all that stuff. Very sexual, very like all that. But me as Jonathan, I'm always been very like quiet kid, reserved. So, and because I was heavier set when I was younger, I was always just covered up. It wasn't until like college, when I lost weight, that I started to feel comfortable to do that, which is not the right answer, obviously. But then I started gaining weight, and then now I'm like in a happy medium where I'm very comfortable with myself. Because when I was skinny, I lost all my curves, and I hated that too. Burlesque definitely helps you love your body. And it's politically, it's seen as like this risque kind of art form, and like this just a nightclub kind of art form. But I feel like it's so much more than that.
Performers like Mizzaddy are the perfect example of how people can claim their body and their sexuality and gender expression and then put it on stage and perform. And performing is the act of performing. While people think it's for the audience, it really is about how you're feeling in that moment and how you feel your body and how you move. All of those things are about that benefit and satisfaction that comes along with it. Of course, an audience can enjoy it, but to be able to do it has such an impact. It's empowering, it's affirming, it's fun, it's all of those things. And it's so important when we're trying to figure out how to feel comfortable with our bodies and who we are. And movement becomes such a big part of that, because when you feel like you can move your body in a way that's pleasurable or expressive or sensual, then you have such a better relationship to your body.
Me gusta mucho como esta forma that he says about reconciliating, or like como reconciling, you know, his masculinity but also his femininity, basically, you know, especially because the femininity part was the most affected part by society when he was a kid, you know. So he was like embracing that part and saying, you're part of me, you know, we are together, you're like, this is me also, you know, and I wanna show it to the world, I wanna inspire the world. And I don't know if he's trying to inspire someone else, but at least pienso que eso es algo de lo bonito de este tipo de performers, you know, like, because people can get inspired about those ways. Just that you really reconcile those parts of you, you know.
It's about creativity.
Also,
it's what you're talking about is creativity and its expression. I mean, I find expressing masculinity so boring. And I only like to perform masculinity if it's sort of queered. And burlesque and performance is always about queering
masculinity,
queering everything.
Yeah, that's true.
Right, queering burlesque, the traditional notion of just women doing burlesque, right? So it's queering performance, it's queering burlesque, it's queering sex, it's queering gender expression, all of that. And having fun while doing it and enjoying it and entertaining people and getting applause. All of that feeds off of one another.
And I think one last thing I want to say about, and it's actually basically related to the main idea that we have been just talking during these whole episodes, you know, this one and the previous ones, is like the importance of visibility and creating community, because the three performers that we're just listening right now, they were inspired by someone else who actually showed them that rules can be broken. So it's about this sort of transition of knowledge and inspiration.
And it's ongoing. It takes lots of people doing it over a long period of time. And as queer people, we've grown up in a society that's told us to hide who we are. I mean, that's literally why they call it being in the closet. And to no longer hide who you are, what your body is like, how you express yourself is powerful. And
it is.
That's precisely what they're talking about.
I've seen a bunch of straight accounts, and I follow a bunch of muscular straight accounts. I mean, I just saw one yesterday that, again, I'm not hating on them, I'm all power to you, showing hole on Instagram. I saw someone's hole on Instagram. So for me, it was and they were a straight it was like a model shoot, but you could see everything. And sometimes I think there is a double standard in how queer sexual art is viewed versus straight passing muscular bodies. I have also seen it happen to where a skinny burlesque performer will not get flagged, and then a fatter or not fat, thick, bigger woman, you know, count is getting like flag. I have a bunch of friends like that, and they're posting the same thing. So I do think like queer bodies specifically, and not the non-conventional queer bodies, you're like not allowed to show. But if you're muscular and hot and straight passing, your account can have millions of likes and followers and it not even be flagged.
Queer bodies, trans bodies, brown bodies are policed in this country, in the world, and that infects social media. It's part of social media. It's part of our daily experiences in the world. And that's what makes performing and all these things all more significant, because in the context of policing of our bodies, people still do it, and people find strength doing it, and people can express themselves. It's an act of resistance against the politics that we have to endure every single day.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very surprised about how social media censors like many things, especially TikTok and Instagram, those two. Facebook too, but like my closer experiences with TikTok and Instagram, they censor like words about sex, sexuality. But what really shocked me just recently was like I have seen some TikTokers speaking about LGBT issues, and when they mention the word gay, they sort of censor them, like, you know, like sort of mute themselves just to
get past the moderators.
But I was like, gay? I mean, I don't justify, but I sort of understand when they talk about, I don't know, like with the word sex, drugs. Okay.
But moderating,
still,
moderating is being moderated either by a machine that was created by a person,
probably was straight,
or a person who has bias. So either the machine has the bias that was built into it, or the person who's moderating it has bias. And the implication of that is that they get to decide what information we get, whether we can learn about being gay, whether we can learn about sex, whether we can learn about HIV,
exactly,
whether we can learn about the fact that there's a genocide happening. The power to moderate it is extreme and unchecked, and it should worry everyone.
Yeah, and I don't know, in the case of these performers, you know, like who also are sort of living through their art, you know, like burlesque, drag queens, bloggers, I don't know, many of those things, like having this sort of censorship on social media, it's also promotes some sort of inequality in the access to...
What maintains it? It
maintains the inequality, you know,
exists.
like, because as Mizzaddy says, like, you know, like if I'm promoting my art, what I do, you know, my work, because it's work also, you know.
It's the same
She's
thing as
not
sex
getting,
work.
Exactly.
Right, the idea that sex is moderated if you're a sex worker and it impacts your income, but it's the one acceptable thing that's moderated because sex is inherently seen as bad.
I think also part of Mizzaddy's performance is like his like liking lingerie and all that stuff, but like wearing it as like, because like in my head, Mizzaddy, when he's in nightlife and all that stuff, that is like their, you know, day job or whatever, their job. So they're out and about, like to them is not lingerie, it's like the outfit. But for me in real life, that's like lingerie, that's like a kink for sure. In the gay community, you're not allowed to be feminine, and something like lingerie is seen like, oh, that's just way too feminine. I think a lot of more people are into it than they lead. Yeah, especially now, because it's funny though, because I see it happen. I think it's just about seeing, I don't even think it's about the lingerie, I think it's about the femininity versus masculinity, because there are pages that I follow as well that are like buff, straight passing men in lingerie, and those pages are like millions of followers, millions of likes, you know. But then when someone who's actually feminine doing it, I feel like it's also not just about the lingerie, it's about the energy you bring, and people just put together like lingerie is the ultimate feminine energy, but you don't have to be feminine to wear lingerie. I know a lot of masculine people that will wear it with an outfit. I would say in general, lingerie makes me feel empowered. Like if I'm at the gym and I have, because I consider like jock straps and thongs part of like the lingerie kind of underwear. So I'm not always wearing lingerie, but like I will wear like a thong or a jock to the gym or something like that. Or if like it's under like my outfit or something like that and no one knows, it's like a secret or whatever. But it always makes me feel like empowered, but also just sexy. What makes Mizzaddy sexy is that he's equally masculine and feminine. Like for me, I have heels, I have like a very feminine costume, lingerie, stuff like that on, but I keep all my body hair, all my facial hair, and I'm not really performing like feminine or masculine. It's like a mix of the two, and I think a lot of people find that attractive.
Ballroom allowed me a space to find my sexual expression outside of intercourse, and that is the category sex siren. Sex siren, it's everything. It is fire. If you've never seen sex siren, it is incredible. And the category is defined by being able to seduce the judges without touching them, and they cannot touch you. Nobody can touch you. And without doing a whole dance, right? It's not go-go dancing. It's not cabaret. It's not a strip dance. You can tease. You can take off clothes. But you can sell sex siren. You can win a sex siren category with just touching your skin ever so slightly, making the right eye contact and the right body movements. It could be slow. It could be super slow. It could be faster, but usually slower is better. And the fact that nobody could touch me. I can do my own thing. I can experiment with my movements, my mirada, the way I look at the judges in the eyes, the way I build suspense, and build a sexual identity that's bigger than just the bedroom. As a Latino man living in the Pacific Northwest, it was mostly like exotification, right? And you could say, the way that I would be perceived by the majority of gay people who were white, and the way that they had made up in their mind what I was going to be in bed and who I was before interacting with me, right? So if I'm Latino, I must be uncut. Because I'm skinny, I'm a twink, and I'm not Latino, I must be a power bottom. If I'm Puerto Rican, then that also means certain things about certain body parts. There's all these expectations of me before I've even had a chance to express myself. Ballroom gave me the space to take the first step myself into an empty space, into an empty room, and present my body, my sexuality, my energy in the way that I decided. And nobody got to touch me or interact with me or tell me how I can serve them.
I think one of the most important things in the world is feeling sexy.
Mm-hmm.
It's so valuable, it's so empowering, but no one teaches us how to do it. Like, we spend our lives, people trying to teach us how to look pretty, or how to look respectable, or how to look presentable, but no one teaches you how to look sexy, or how to feel sexy. You have to figure it out on your own, and it's hard.
Because it's seen as something dangerous sometimes.
Yeah, or we have
Indecent.
we have ideals of sexiness that are bullshit, heterosexual, macho ideals, right? Like Zapata on a horse.
Uh-huh.
Which in and of itself is sort of turns it on its head the notion of what masculinity is, considering he was a hobo. But to feel sexy in that moment in our lives, it's so hard to state how meaningful it is. Because no one's giving you sexy. You have to feel sexy internally, and then you can express it to people around you. Much of it's sort of confidence, but it's not about being pretty or being seen as a traditional idea of what's good or bad. It's just a feeling that you have, and you can feel sexy wearing lingerie, and you can feel sexy going to the supermarket and pushing a cart. You can feel sexy wearing fingernail polish and a hat, and you can feel sexy in a jock strap, or you can feel sexy being completely naked. But that feeling comes from the inside, and we haven't figured out a good way to help people find that sexiness within themselves. And I think something like burlesque clearly can help people do that, but I don't know of other ways that we can help people really sort of find the sexiness within themselves.
Yeah. No, I mean, I was just thinking about like why we haven't done that. Like, I mean, why society not, why society hasn't done that, or why society is not pushing or like helping people to feel sexy,
Because it's what you said, it's dangerous.
Yeah, that's my first thought. Like, it's because people think it's dangerous, but also people think it's superficial and basic.
I think it's just because it's dangerous. That's what makes it so exciting. It's dangerous. It too has power.
My first idea when you talk about sexy, like why, like this feeling was Teresa and Ruby, those characters, and it's interesting how those two characters are always like the bad girls who use their sexiness to get something,
But that's a narrative that's existed
Exactly.
for thousands of years, whether it's witches or evil queens or a movie like Basic Instinct, right? Women who are sexual, in this case sexual, or women who are too sexy or dangerous.
Or who know that they are sexy and they sort of, like...
And gay men who are too sexual, quote unquote, have always been seen as dangerous. And gay men who people feel are too empowered around their sexuality and sexy is seen as dangerous. And that can work to our benefit, right? Leather culture or Tom of Finland is an example of sexiness within our culture that some people probably still get disturbed by or find dangerous or harness or men in lingerie.
Yeah.
People find that dangerous because it's dismantling conventions of sexuality and gender.
And also I would say, like, I think people who feel sexy that don't fit in the stereotype of beauty, what it means to be handsome or beauty or beautiful, sometimes can be also disturbing for society, because it's like, who told you that you should feel sexy, like, you shouldn't feel sexy. But it's just like that person just like, like ignoring those things and saying, I feel sexy because I am sexy, because that's what I think, that's what I believe, and that's how I feel inside of me.
But sexiness is a feeling.
It's a
And
feeling.
it's almost impossible to articulate what sexiness is, but you know it when you feel it. And that's why it's still so surprising to me that even queer people, we spend so much time talking about wearing the right outfit or having the right body or looking the right skin color, the right look. But none of that matters when it comes to feeling sexy. And unfortunately, we talk less about what it means to feel sexy. And that can change minute by minute. But we know it when we feel it. And the best we can do is sort of affirm people when they're experiencing it, and demonstrate it to others so that people can sort of find the sexiness within themselves.
Well, I think we are just coming to the end of this episode. I just want to say thank you to our amazing guest. Muchas gracias a nuestros increíbles invitados que nos compartieron sus experiencias, sus conocimientos y todo sobre lo que platicamos en este episodio. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Mizzaddy. Thank you, Diego.
Thanks for listening to this episode. Join us each week for our American Beauty podcast. Gracias.
Adiós.
Bye.